Closing parenthesis colon. What if the person you were never supposed to trust became the only one you couldn't live without? This is not just a love story, it's a collision of secrets, power, and a connection so dangerous it could destroy everything. Stay till the end, because the final twist will change everything you thought you knew. And if you love intense, emotional stories like this, hit subscribe right now, because the next story might just be even darker. Started with a mistake, or at least that's what Cairo kept telling herself the night she first saw Mr. Miller standing alone near the glass walls of the high-rise, the city of London glowing behind him like a living thing. He wasn't smiling, wasn't talking, wasn't even looking at anyone, yet somehow he commanded the entire room without trying. Cairo wasn't supposed to be there. She wasn't supposed to be wearing that black dress she borrowed, or holding a glass of champagne she couldn't pronounce, or pretending she belonged among people who built empires with a signature. But there she was, watching him like everyone else, except unlike everyone else, she didn't know who he was, and that was the first thing that made her dangerous. He noticed her because she didn't look away. Most people did. When his eyes met hers, there was no admiration, no fear, just curiosity, and something sharper beneath it, like she was trying to figure him out instead of being impressed by him. That was new. That was rare. That was a problem. Who invited you? He asked when he finally approached her, his voice low, controlled, almost too calm. Cairo tilted her head slightly, unfazed. Does it matter? It always matters, he replied. She smiled then, just a little. Then I guess I'm your problem now. He should have walked away. He didn't. That was the beginning of the game. Cairo learned quickly that Mr. Miller wasn't just another wealthy man, he was influence, leverage, secrets wrapped in a tailored suit. People didn't say no to him. Deals didn't fail him. And yet, somehow, he kept finding reasons to cross paths with her again. A cafe she, randomly, visited turned out to be owned by one of his subsidiaries. A gallery she wandered into happened to be hosting his private collection. Each meeting felt like coincidence, but Cairo knew better, nothing about him was accidental. And still, she played along. Because Cairo had secrets too. Weeks passed, and their conversations grew longer, sharper, more personal. He tested her, subtly at first, then deliberately, probing for weaknesses, contradictions, anything that would explain why she didn't react to him like everyone else. But Cairo never cracked. She deflected, redirected, and sometimes, when she wanted to throw him off balance, she told the truth, just not the parts that mattered. You don't trust me, he said one night, watching her closely as they stood on a quiet rooftop. No, she admitted, and you don't trust anyone. A pause. Then, almost reluctantly, he said, that's not entirely true. Who do you trust? She asked. He looked at her then, really looked, as if weighing something he couldn't afford to lose. I'm still deciding, he said. That should have been her warning. Because the closer she got, the more dangerous everything became. Cairo wasn't in London by accident. She had come for a reason, one tied to a name Mr. Miller had buried years ago, a name that resurfaced in whispers, in files that didn't exist, in deals that vanished before anyone could question them. She had spent months tracking the threads, and they all led back to him. Not directly. Never directly. But enough for someone like her to know the truth was there, hidden beneath layers of power and silence. And then she made the mistake of caring. It happened slowly, the way dangerous things often do. A shared look that lasted too long. A conversation that turned into laughter neither of them expected. A moment where he let his guard down, just for a second, and she saw something real behind the control, something human. That was when the game stopped being a game. You're not who you say you are, he told her one evening, his tone sharper than usual. Cairo didn't flinch. Neither are you. Silence stretched between them, heavy and electric. Tell me the truth, he said. She stepped closer instead, her voice quieter now. What if the truth changes everything? Then we deal with it. She almost laughed at that. Almost. Because some truths don't just change things, they destroy them. The night everything unraveled, it wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet. Too quiet. Cairo had found what she was looking for, a file, hidden deep within a network that wasn't supposed to exist. It had names, dates, transactions, and one entry that made her blood run cold. A name she recognized. A connection she hadn't expected. Mr. Miller wasn't just involved, he was at the center of it. And worse, he knew she had found out. You shouldn't have looked, he said when she turned around to see him standing in the doorway. There was no anger in his voice. That was the terrifying part. Who are you? She asked, her voice barely steady. You already know, he replied. Say it. He hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. I'm the reason those people disappeared. The words hit harder than anything she expected. And me, she whispered. What am I? Something in his expression shifted then, something that hadn't been there before. You, he said slowly, are the one thing I didn't plan for. That was the moment Cairo realized the truth. This wasn't just about secrets anymore. This was about choices. About who they were willing to become, and what they were willing to lose. Are you going to stop me? She asked. He took a step closer. Do you want me to? Her heart pounded, not from fear, but from something far more complicated. No, she said. Another step. Closer now. Then run, he whispered. She didn't. Because somewhere along the way, the line between hunter and target had blurred, and neither of them knew who would win. The twist came when Cairo finally understood why he hadn't stopped her, why he had let her get this far, why he had let himself feel something he couldn't control. The file wasn't just evidence. It was bait, for someone else. And Cairo had been part of the plan all along. You used me, she said, the realization cutting deeper than any betrayal. Yes, he admitted. And you still do, she added. A long pause. Yes. Tears burned in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Then why does this feel real? For the first time, Mr. Miller didn't have an answer. Because it was real. And that was the one thing neither of them could afford. In the end, there was no clean resolution. No perfect ending. Just a choice. Cairo walked away. But she didn't leave empty-handed. And Mr. Miller, he let her go. Not because he wanted to. But because some games aren't meant to be won. They're meant to change you. Forever.